It was supposed to be the start of their new life. Sarah and Ethan had spent years saving up to buy the perfect house, a beautiful old manor perched on the edge of a quiet coastal town. The place was a dream come true for them, a symbol of the life they had always wanted to build together. They moved in during the early days of autumn, the air crisp and filled with the scent of salt from the nearby sea. But from the very first night, Sarah felt something was off. It wasn't anything she could explain to Ethan. He always dismissed it, saying it was just the house settling, the creaks of an old building. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. At first, it was small things, the soft sound of footsteps in the hallway when no one was there, a cold breeze that seemed to come from nowhere. But as the nights passed, the strange occurrences grew. On the third night, Sarah woke to the sound of whispering. At first, she thought it was Ethan talking in his sleep, but when she turned, he was fast asleep beside her. The voices were faint, as if coming from the walls themselves. She strained to listen, but the words were just beyond her grasp. The whispering didn't stop, not even when she pressed her hands over her ears. She lay there, heart racing, until finally, the voices faded with the first light of dawn. She told Ethan about it the next morning, but again, he shrugged it off. "It's an old house, Sarah. You're just not used to it yet," he said, his smile warm, but his eyes tired. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers grew louder. Sarah felt a chill in the house that no amount of warmth could chase away. It clung to her, like an invisible presence, always watching. Ethan tried to comfort her, but he couldn't feel it, the heavy cold, the oppressive weight of the house pressing down on her. One evening, while Ethan was away on a work trip, Sarah stood in front of the grand fireplace, staring into the flames, trying to find comfort in their warmth, but behind her, she felt it again, a presence, something cold and dark. It was so close she could feel its breath on her neck. She turned quickly, but no one was there. The room was empty, but the chill remained, creeping under her skin like a cold, dead hand. It wasn't until the night Sarah heard the voice that she understood the house wasn't just haunted, it was alive. The voice was unmistakable this time, a deep, guttural whisper that echoed through the halls, calling her name. Sarah. She froze in the kitchen, her hand trembling over the sink. The voice was coming closer, slithering through the air like a predator stalking its prey. When she finally turned around, she saw a shadow, dark and formless, standing at the entrance to the hallway. It didn't have eyes, but she felt its gaze piercing through her, cold and unforgiving. From that moment on, the house became a prison. Sarah couldn't escape the entity's presence. Ethan tried to help, but he didn't understand the weight of what was happening. He couldn't see the shadowy figure that followed her everywhere, couldn't hear the voice that haunted her dreams. Sarah became a shell of the woman she once was. The love she and Ethan shared, once vibrant and full of promise, began to wither under the strain. She couldn't explain the pain she felt, the suffocating presence of the house that clung to her, draining her of life. She would stare at Ethan, wanting to tell him, but the words would die on her lips, swallowed by the house itself. The night it happened, Sarah felt it coming. She woke in the early hours, the house deathly silent. Ethan was asleep beside her, peaceful and unaware. She slipped out of bed and walked through the darkened halls, the shadows curling around her like old friends. She knew what was coming, and in some twisted way, she welcomed it. The shadow figure waited for her in the grand foyer. It stood there, silent, watching, as if waiting for her to surrender. She took a deep breath and stepped toward it, her body cold and numb. "I'm ready," she whispered, her voice trembling. And in that moment, the house claimed her. When Ethan awoke the next morning, Sarah was gone. No trace of her remained, not a note, not a sound. The house stood silent, but he could feel it, the lingering shadow that had taken the woman he loved. He searched for her for days, weeks even, but the house had swallowed her whole, and though he never found her, he always felt her presence, as if she were still there, just beyond the walls, forever trapped in the shadows of their dream home.